So we've now been in this house working for, I think, 19 days. So it's been almost 3 weeks. We move in 2 days. Today is Wednesday, we move in on Friday. But I did take a couple of weeks break from tearing down the back soffit. We decided that we wanted to get the back of the house, the bedrooms, the hallway, the living room, pretty much ready for move-in so that we have a place to land. The kitchen, we're just gonna be working on this while we live here. It's gonna be a little bit of a construction site / living space for a little while, and that's okay. So a couple of days ago, I came in here and scraped the texture off of the ceilings. I'm so glad that is done. That was a big, messy job, and it's just good to have that behind me. The next messy thing, which is not gonna be quite as messy, but definitely just as labor intensive, possibly more, is getting that soffit down. After that, it'll be just a matter of getting the base cabinets out of here, which will probably happen over the next week or so. And then I'll start building the kitchen cabinets to go in this space. Alan has also been working in our basement, but one of the first things that he is doing down there is getting all the carpet up. So he started that process yesterday. Already the smell down there is getting better, and he's only removed about 25% of the carpet. And then there are 2 areas in the basement that have carpet. So there's like the main big kind of den space, and there's another room where the walkout entrance is of the house, of the basement. It's in pretty bad shape, and we've had some mold growth down there. So we definitely want to get that out and prevent as much moisture from getting in there as possible. I also spent some time a couple of days ago when I was here scraping the ceiling, just putting some patches in the holes in the ceiling from the first 2 soffits that I removed. It is so nice to have that covered and not just see the insulation kind of hanging down in there. It looks a little bit, a little bit more kept up, I guess. I've kind of been dreading getting started on this soffit back here because I am so tired and so sore. My hands ache from so much gripping of all the tools, painting the walls, all of that. So I just gotta dive in and do it. So I'm being a little strategic with my sledgehammer. I know I'm banging holes into this face of the soffit, but I am actually just trying to poke some holes so that I can look inside. I'm not trying to do any massive demolition with the sledgehammer right now. I just want to create a little window for myself to look around inside the soffit before I start being more strategic about taking down the pieces of the soffit. I do know that there is no ductwork in these soffits because I checked around adjoining spaces to this room. There's no vents coming out of this soffit. All of our vents for our heating and cooling system are actually in the floor, and there's just an attic space above. There is a vent hood that I wasn't sure, if it was a ventless hood or not. So I'm waiting to demolish that particular portion until I was able to get in there and look around and see what was in there. I'm pretty sure it's ventless. It does not go anywhere. It's just blowing into the attic space, which I also think is probably not the best. So once I had some decent sized holes poked in this soffit with my sledgehammer, I was able to look in there and see what was going on. And then I was a little bit more strategic about how I was pulling the soffit down, making sure that I wasn't going to destroy anything besides the soffit. There is an electrical wire that went to the vent hood. I will be reusing that electricity for the future vent hood, and I'm just being really careful not to accidentally rip that out of the wall. I've also turned off the power to this area so that I'm, extra safe. Now these soffits have been such a pain to get down. They are up there really, really well. I do know that soffits are essentially made to close the gap between the top of the cabinets and the ceiling. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think that cabinets should just go all the way to the ceiling. Most standard cabinets that you're buying at the store are not built that way. They're not built to go all the way to the ceiling, and there's usually a gap. I'm going to actually be building my cabinets all the way to the ceiling. And my Sawzall has been a game changer when taking these soffits down. I have found that it makes it a lot easier to get them down if I cut them into sections and then pull down each section, just because there's so much framing up here. These things are built to last, but they have met their match. I'm determined to get these soffits out. Now, these soffits were built with framing, drywall, and then a layer of particle board over that. And then these end caps were built with solid wood boards. They are so hard to get out. Every single one that I've encountered has taken me, like this one I think took me 15 or 20 minutes just working solely on this one to get it out of here. This is all the carnage from that one dumb piece. These things are like, oh, that's a lot. Okay, I gotta clean this up a little bit. Curse you, curse you. They really wanted this thing to be indestructible. Look at all these nails. So many. Woo! Busy. It's smelling better out down here already. Nice, nice form. I did it. I got the soffits down. It was not easy, but as I went along, I kind of figured out a few things, and actually, from the first renovation, I did figure out a lot of little tricks. The Sawzall is an invaluable tool. And that little tiny crowbar is actually super, super handy. Like I would hammer in the long end and kind of get it started, but I'd flip it around to the little smaller hooked end and then get that in there and just wiggle it back and forth. And that actually was quite effective at getting a lot of those little framing pieces out. It still took a long time though. So I did take a little break. I went and got some lunch, kind of cleaned up some of the mess from taking that stuff down. And now I think I'm gonna spend the rest of my time here today doing some other little cleanup things. The previous owners did leave a fridge and a range. They both work fine, but the range in particular is pretty grimy. I'm gonna clean that up pretty good and give it a little TLC. We are eventually gonna get a new range and a new refrigerator because they just look kind of run down. They're getting a little tired. But until then, we will be using these to kind of meet our needs until we're ready to order those appliances. That'll also give us a somewhat functional kitchen in the meantime. Now, a couple things to note. I am going to be patching the holes that I created from removing the soffits, but one of the things that I am kind of considering doing for the kitchen is putting in beadboard on the walls. I really like that look. I think it kind of has a little bit of a farmhouse vibe to it, which I like. And the beadboard is just going to be a little bit easier to install and finish than drywall will be, so I think that's really going to be the ticket for getting a nice finish in this kitchen. I've mentioned this before, but we're also going to be removing the door here, and we're going to fill that in, and that'll give me more wall space for putting the base cabinets along these two walls, the wall here in the back and the wall on the side. And the eventual design that I'm planning to go for in this kitchen is going to be kind of a mix of farmhouse and craftsman, maybe a little touch of mid-century modern in there, but I want it to have a, you know, down-to-earth, lived-in feel, a little bit vintage feel. So anyway, that's the plan for this space. So I'm going to spend some time now doing a little cleanup. I'll probably also wipe down this wall back here. There's a little bit of like food splatter mess on the wall because even though we're going to be covering all of this, eventually I just want the wall to be somewhat clean before we put a new finish on top of it. So that's what I'm going to do. my gosh, come here. Do you need me to hold you? Okay, somebody's feeling a little extra needy lately. So it's been a few days since I started ripping out this last soffit back here. And in those few days, we have officially moved in to the house. We are out of our apartment. Things are kind of in disarray right now. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I just hold on to the faith that we're going to end up with a beautiful kitchen at the end of all of this. When we first got the keys to this house, and even before then, I thought the kitchen is my top priority. I'm gonna get that kitchen done before we move in because we had about 3 weeks to work on the house before we moved in. Here, I'm gonna put you down, okay? So we just stayed in our apartment and came out here and worked on the house every day for those 3 weeks. Well, after the first few days of working on the house, we decided that it would be a really good idea to get the bedrooms finished, kind of get the back of the house finished, try to get the living room finished, minus the trim. That way we actually had a place to land that was clean, that was mostly finished, that we could relax in at the end of the day. And the kitchen kind of got put on the back burner because we can live without a kitchen for a little while. Right now I have a little makeshift kitchen over here in the dining area, and I've got boxes in the kitchen. I've got boxes in the living room. I've also got the 2 extra bedrooms up here filled with all of our stuff. And it's a little bit of a mess right now, honestly. It's a little overwhelming when you first walk in. Yesterday I spent some time really getting things organized because at first, stuff was just everywhere. So I'm really glad we got the rest of the house set up so that we can move into those areas. Our bedroom is actually extremely peaceful and quiet right now, and it's a nice retreat. Even the living room, although it looks a little bit unfinished without the trim, it's still a nice place to just kind of sit down, relax, watch some TV, get on our computers, all of that. So really glad we did that. But now we're back on the kitchen. Now I'm really focused on this kitchen. I'm gonna work on removing the cabinet, the little base cabinet here on this back wall. This is gonna be the first base cabinet that I've removed, but I'm learning to set small goals for myself so that I don't get overwhelmed. And that's really all I'm planning to focus on today, is getting that small cabinet removed. It'll also give me a chance to kind of hone my strategy a little bit for removing the base cabinets, because I think it's gonna be a little bit different than removing the upper cabinets. And I'd like to avoid using the sledgehammer too much if I can, because it just gets stuff everywhere. And now that all of our stuff is in here, I need to be a little bit more cautious and careful about what's flying through the air and getting on all of our stuff. So, and see if I can do most of it with the crowbar and kind of prying things loose. Oh, what do I want to do? Ugh, that's not creepy. It's not creepy. It's not creepy. Okay, cover up that little portal to hell. Okay. Once I had the little cabinet removed, I grabbed the shop vac to do some cleanup, and you probably can't even see it, but things were flying out of that little exhaust hole on the shop vac, and it was just a bunch of like debris and fuzz and like little bits of carpet fibers. How did that happen? What is that? At the time I didn't realize this, but my husband told me later that the same thing happened to him, and there was actually a mouse nesting in our shop vac, and he was trying to figure it out himself, and he saw the little mouse fly out of there. One day the mouse survived. The mouse is okay. But yeah, I'm glad I did not know that at the time, because I definitely had my face down in that hole trying to figure out what was going on. I also decided to go ahead and clean this wall. It just had some kind of old food grime and stains on it. You know, that happens. And also I just didn't want to have to look at it until we get it covered. So I went ahead and cleaned that up really quick. And I actually hadn't planned on doing this step, but I went ahead and pulled the melamine off the wall. This was a backsplash that they had attached directly to the wall. It was really thin, and originally I was gonna just cover it up with either drywall or paneling, but there were some areas that were a little more raised than others, and I thought it might be a good idea just to go ahead and get the wall surface as flat as possible. This did tear off the drywall paper, and if I wasn't planning to cover this up, I'd probably have to replace the drywall, which I would have had to do anyway, because as you can see, there's just a lot going on this drywall. Then I went through and scraped some of the bigger paper pieces that were hanging off just to get a little bit more smooth surface. Okay, I got the little cabinet out and I feel good that I got that out. It was definitely easier than getting the soffits and the upper cabinets out, I think, just because I wasn't fighting gravity. And maybe I've learned a few things about getting these things out. So I was really trying to reduce the amount that I was using my sledgehammer and my Sawzall. I, wanted to be a little easier on my hands and my joints, but also Huxley's here and the loud noises kind of scare him. So I'm trying to limit that as much as possible because Alan's not here. He can't really take him outside while I'm doing some of the more heavy banging and sawing. But those tools really do help a ton, so I did end up having to use those. I wanted to primer this wall just to get it looking a little bit nicer because I'm gonna have to stare at it for days and possibly weeks. But I don't know where my primer is, so I need to get some more primer, so maybe I'll do that later. But right now I just need to clean up my mess and I might call it a day.